Hi everybody, this video is brought to you from a donation from Anonymous. So here we go. This is very difficult for me, but I feel it's important for me to get my story out there. It's long, but I'll try to stick to most of the significant bits. I am also in need of some urgent advice from you if you are able to give it. And of course, I love your interjections. So any input you have on any part of my story is more than welcome. Thank you so much. My parents divorced when I was about two, and I have no memory of them being together. The next couple of years were great though, and I remember a lot from when I was 3 and 4. My mom treated me well. I could talk to her about anything. She worked nights as a bartender, and I would always wake up a few minutes before she would get home from work in the wee hours and wait for her. I would then snuggle up with her in her bed. One night when she got home, she told me she was working on a surprise for me and I should stay in her bed and sleep alone. I couldn't do that. I was 4 and I was excited about my surprise. After calling for her many times and seeing how frustrated she was getting with me, I decided to be quiet for a while, then sneak into the living room and try to see my surprise. Instead, what I saw was my mother on our couch in a very awkward sexual position with a man I had never seen before. My mother saw me and I got in trouble. The next day, I was introduced to him. He made me uncomfortable. I didn't like the way he looked at me. When I expressed my concerns to her, she said I was jealous and didn't want to share her, which I which I knew even then was absurd because I had liked and rooted for her other boyfriends. I caught them in the act a few weeks later, once again, this time in broad daylight in a room with the bedroom door wide open. He saw me this time and he just stared back and smiled at me. The three of us moved in together shortly after. Jesus. Sexual inappropriateness. And you can see these narcissistic mothers. I could see where this story is going already. Another narcissistic mother who's probably going to throw her child under the bus in favor of some dick and attention. This isn't the part of the story I want to focus on because it isn't the most relevant to my situation right now. Let's just say things got bad. My mom had another baby when I was 8. Soon after she started being beaten. To this day, if I hear yelling or a slamming door, my heart jumps into my throat and I can't breathe for a minute. I wasn't allowed to get out of my bed most of the time. I had to ask permission to go to the bathroom and was given one meal a day when I wasn't in school. This meal was dinner. He would give me more food than he would give himself, and I was expected to clean my plate within 30 minutes or there would be consequences. My mom spent two most of her days in bed too by this time, and I didn't know the full extent of what was happening. My baby sister was always in her crib. When he would leave the house, I would sneak into her room to clean up the messes she made playing with her diapers and try to feed her. She was barely surviving. Every now and then my dad would pick me up when he had a new girlfriend who wanted proof that he was the amazing father he claimed to be. Aside from that, I didn't see much. I didn't see him much. I also spent some weekends with my maternal grandparents. They were wonderful to me. When I was 10 and my sister was 2, our mother died of a staph infection. She was 33 years old. During autopsy, cocaine was found in her system and there were track marks on her arm. So I assume that's how she got the infection, clearly. So you had a mom, she's bartending, your parents got divorced, your father really didn't want too much to do with you other than to impress some other woman. Everything was good with your mom for 2 years until she got some dick and attention she wanted. And, you know, she got a staph infection and had track marks on her arm. Probably the reason why she was in bed so much was because she was zoned out on heroin. Not any type of illness. It was illness, but an illness she gave herself. Coke and heroin will do that. My sister's father disappeared from our lives shortly after our mom died. Thank goodness. Yeah, because he was probably a junkie too. And she had a job, so he was probably using her for her money or some kind of stability or sex. Once she was gone, he really wanted nothing to do with the family. He just wanted access to drugs, money, and sex. We moved in with my mother's parents, and my dad tried to fight for custody of me, telling his girlfriend at the time he didn't want people to think he wasn't a good father. What will people think if I don't get custody of my daughter when her mother's dead? At the time, he was living with his parents and struggling to make ends meet as a musician playing in bars. The judge allowed me to make the decision. I told the court that my sister needed me. She hardly knew my grandparents, and she was very fragile and underdeveloped. I stayed with my grandparents. That's a tough decision to make. From a father's perspective, now I don't know what the full story is with your dad yet, but I don't know what the terms of the divorce was, whether they're amicable or not. But I don't think it's a bad thing that your father said. What kind of father wouldn't try to get custody of his daughter? Because to me, I mean, I understand what you're saying about you feeling used around new girlfriends, and that might be the case. But maybe your mom dying was the wake up call as well. And I'm not doubting your decision. I mean, you were a child, and the court probably would have let you stay with the grandparent anyway, because to split up two children, they want to usually keep siblings together. So, and I doubt your dad would have wanted to take on somebody else's child, and so the best situation probably was for you at your grandparents' house, and that's probably how if you didn't decide that way, the court would have probably decided that way anyway. They bought us everything we wanted. It seems like I always had new furniture and the coolest clothes. But as they were handling my little sister with kid gloves and allowing horrendous behavior, saying, "She's been through so much already, we don't want to put her through anymore. What do you expect us to do, beat her?" I love my sister so much, and I just wanted her to grow into a happy, healthy person. I was picked on a lot. I didn't dress feminine enough. My teachers wouldn't like me, and I would get bad grades. My music was garbage. My grandfather started avoiding me, and my grandmother had a problem with everything I did. This went on for about 3 years. Some of that might have had to do with the generation gap, too, between you and your grandparents. And so, who knows? Let's see. At 13, I decided my sister didn't need me so much anymore. I felt like there was nothing I could do for her anymore, and I was just a burden on my grandparents. I had become great friends with my dad's girlfriend. She was only 13 years older than me and seemed to understand me well. We talked on the phone often. She didn't hear from my dad very much, though. I figured it was time to get to know him better and asked if I could move in. By that time, he was touring with a popular country band and living with his girlfriend in another state. My grandparents were heartbroken when I left. Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of your decision might have been that you did want to get to know your dad. And maybe you felt like a third wheel or a fifth wheel in your grandparents' house for whatever reason. Had to be tough on your sister growing up early on. The fact that she was playing with her own diapers, and you were the one feeding her as a child at 8, 9 years old. That's a lot of responsibility to be taken on. So I would probably imagine you probably came off a lot older, like I did as a child, like almost a little adult. And when you act like that, some people kind of take that for granted and forget you're a kid, and they think you can deal with more than you actually can. And that might have been what your grandparents were dealing with as far as their relationship with you. My father made it clear early on that his home was not my home, that I had nothing, that I was nothing, and that I didn't deserve human rights because I was subhuman. His girlfriend hated the way he treated me, but she was young and thought it wasn't her place to get involved. She married him so she wouldn't be setting a negative example for me. When he was on tour, she and I had great times together. I felt free. When he was home, however, things that were fine to do one day were huge infractions the next. I was punished with loads of chores, and when I missed the spot on a dish or a dust bunny on the floor, I was spanked with a wooden paddle that he made in his shop with holes drilled in it. He made me bend over the arm of the couch and pull my pants down. That's a sexual thing. Because you were 13 when you moved in, that's some kind of sexual gratification right there. Jesus. When I was 16, I bought my first car with my own money, and I got a job. I wasn't allowed to drive to school, though. My father said, my tax dollars pay for that school bus, and I'm going to get my money's worth. What an asshole. Nothing about the money you use to buy your car what your money pays for. But then again, your father told you were subhuman and you don't count anyway. School was my favorite place in the world. I was alive there. I had a 4.25 GPA and I was in Beta Club, Future Leaders of America, and Chorus. I was pretty popular. One day I had been up late doing homework and missed the school bus. My father decided to hit me where it would hurt. He decided to punish me by keeping me home from school and ruining my perfect attendance record. I cried and he smacked me in the face. Another time, after I stopped taking my backpack to school and left it in my closet, he went through it. He found a project I had done in chemistry. We had to cut and bend glass tubing. So it was this little L-shaped glass tube with a burn mark at the bend from a Bunsen burner. Of course, even though I was never allowed in the house except to go to work and school, and he had gotten copies of my work schedule from my manager, so he would know I wasn't pulling any shit, he assumed I was on crack, and this was a crack pipe. When I got home from school that day, he was sitting at the kitchen table with a digital voice recorder. So much drama. He told me he was recording our conversation for evidence. Asked me if I had been experimenting with drugs. Eventually, he told me what he had found, and I explained what it was. He laughed in my face and said, "Sorry about your room. You better get started in there. It'll probably take you all night." He told me he had called the police and they had ransacked my room. Later, my stepmom told me he tried to make the police ransack my room. They refused, so he did it himself. Things needed to change, and I didn't want to go back to live with my grandparents because I was doing so well in school. I was on a path to a full ride to any school I wanted to go. I was going to prove myself and everyone else in my life that they were wrong about me. So I asked the teacher that I trusted for help. She tried, but I couldn't prove any physical abuse, so there was nothing she could do. I think my guidance counselor told my dad. I can't remember how he reacted, but I remember him telling me furiously that he asked her if I was pregnant, and when she wouldn't give him an answer, he blew up at her. Your father has a sexual thing with you. He absolutely does. I mean, if his girlfriend's only 13 years older than you, he obviously likes him young to begin with. Again, I don't know when I would have had the opportunity to get knocked up. I was, of course, a virgin. I didn't give up there. Though. I looked into emancipation. I was 16 at the time, had a car, a license, a job, a place to live lined up. One of my managers at work was going to let me rent a room at her place. I have no idea how he found out. He totally lost his mind on me. It was around this time that there was a car accident in our town. A group of kids crashed into a girl driving by herself. All but one person died, and they were all students from my school. The driver of the car with the group was one of my best friends. My heart was broken into pieces and I was allowed to go to his viewing. I got home from seeing a close friend dead in his coffin, 15 minutes late because I had to stop for gas on the way home. I was called names for this and immediately told my father, and, and immediately told that my father had found a note that I had passed with a friend a semester earlier when he was going through my things while I was at school that day. It was a short note. I had written, "He hit me again last night," and my friend had replied, "Next time you should have a knife in your hand." According to my father, this made him fear for his life. He pictured himself walking through the yard being shot in the head by my hoodlum friends because of the lies I had been telling them. He said I was being sent back to live with my grandparents and I was to have no contact with any of my friends after I moved out 2 days later. I was not allowed to go to my friend's funeral. Well, wait a minute. If you moved out and went to your grandparents' house, then he can't tell you shit. And I'll tell you where the fear is. The fear is that's what, yeah, he put that in his head because that's what he knows he deserved. Because that's what he wanted. That's what he would do if it was done to him. That's how he felt he should have been dealt with. That's exactly what that was. And he knew you were telling other people at this point, and he knew there were other people who knew at that point who he couldn't control and now go ahead and recruit as flying monkeys. Okay, so he felt exposed that that justice was going to come serve him, the justice he felt he deserved. He had told my grandparents, along with his whole family, horrendous lies about me. I was a liar, I was deceitful, I was spiteful, and I was rebelling like crazy. Shortly after I was kicked out of my dad's house, he got fired from his job with the band he was with because the 15-year-old daughter of the band's drummer accused him of groping her in her sleep on the tour bus. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. He maintained his innocence, I'm sure he did, but failed the lie detector test. This was the last straw for my then stepmom, and she divorced him. I told you that's why he was with your stepmom, because she was so goddamn young. That's what the pulling the pants down at 13, bending you over, that is a sexual fetish that he had. He's a sicko. He launched a huge smear campaign against her, and she lost a lot of people. What people are going to believe an accused fucking child molester over, like, come on. I mean, these people can't, this is the thing. Narcissists and their enablers refuse to connect dots. You can lay the evidence right in front of their faces. You can put it in their lap. You can put it in their faces. They will not connect the fucking dots because they don't want to. So anybody who at this point, who knows why your father was fired, okay, and you would tell them that he would fucking make you pull your pants down from 13 to 16 so he could beat you with a paddle over the goddamn couch and then would knowingly carry on an association with them, who the fuck cares what they think? They're piles of shit just like they are. They refuse to connect the dots. He launched a huge smear campaign against her and she lost a lot of people, but she is now happy with a real man and has had children of her own, which she didn't think would ever happen. She and I are still good friends. My new school where my grandparents lived didn't have honors classes, so when I enrolled, my GPA automatically dropped to 4.0. I was depressed and stopped caring about school altogether. I had a job there but was forced to quit because I had my car taken away. I had been on autopilot a lot, in that dream state, and kept getting into auto accidents. I moved out the day after graduation, had a short series of awful relationships, and at 19 met the love of my life. We have been together almost 10 years, married almost 8, and have 2 amazing emotionally stable children who know they are loved. I had a lot of work to do on myself to heal enough to be able to be a good parent. My grandmother passed away when my first child was 8 months old. My grandfather became good friends with my father somehow, And every time I would try to go no contact with my dad, my grandpa would encourage me to try to have a relationship with him, with a fucking child molester. Wow. Wow, Grandpa. Good job, bud. I confronted my father on the phone one day, trying to fix things between us. Oh my God, the gaslighting. When I was 19, I had confronted him because someone who was very reliable told me that he was cheating on his new girlfriend. So during this confrontation over the phone, 4 or 5 years later, he calmly tried to make me think I was crazy for a few hours before saying, this whole conversation has been about how you've been hurt, but you've hurt me and a lot of other people too, and they always will try to turn it back on you. Yeah, that's why you're confronting. Yeah, motherfucker, congratulations. That's exactly why I'm confronting you about what you did to me, asshole. Holy shit, even when you confront them, they still cannot connect the fucking dots that it's because of your shitty behavior. Oh, yes, this is about me, asshole. That's why I am confronting you. And that's why it is so goddamn alien to them when it fucking happens. It's like, holy shit, what do you mean you have feelings? Suck my dick. God damn it. Sorry. I asked, what have I done? And he brought up the incident when I was 19. He started screaming at me out of nowhere, demanding to know who my source was. I heard his new wife in the background saying he was acting ugly. Then he turned to her, yelled at her to shut the fuck up and stay the fuck out of it. Then there was static, some sort of struggle on the line. That's when I lost it. I called her cell phone to make sure she was okay. She said it was her fault. She shouldn't have stuck her nose where it didn't belong. He took the phone from her and continued screaming. I told him I was done with him. You should have called the cops on a domestic after that. Should have sent the cops to his fucking house on a domestic violence call, because I guarantee you if he hit you, he hit her. The next day, my grandpa read me an email my father had sent him. He told him that I went crazy, freaked out on him for no reason. This is why you don't talk to the narcissist without a recording. That was it. My husband and I took the kids and moved many states away and have been no contact with my father for years now. I have two family members left that he hasn't quite succeeded in turning against me yet, but he's still trying. Who cares? My grandfather and my little sister, they both see him often. I was doing much better with him out of my life, still struggling with low self-esteem, very easily startled, and occasionally still feeling like I was living in a dream. But I was functioning well as a stay-at-home mom, schooling my kids through an online public school. My husband works from home and doesn't make very much money. We go without a lot of luxuries, but we have what we need and we have each other. My little sister is getting married soon. My grandpa, my mother's dad, the father of one of my father's earliest victims, invited him to the wedding. I have been there for her. I already missed her high school graduation. The kids and I have been asked to be part of the wedding party. I can handle seeing my father this one time, I think, and I can mostly avoid him while I'm there. I'm not too worried about it because I know I can come back home far away from him afterwards. But still, just knowing he's going to be there has brought everything flooding back. I'm having flashbacks, not just of him, but of my mom's boyfriend too. I'm always in the dream. I constantly want to cry right now, and I'm trying to hold myself together for my kids. After a short visit with my doctor, he diagnosed me with PTSD, put me on meds, referred me to a therapist I'm supposed to be starting next week. Look, before you bring your children back to these people from another state you've already left, you better think about this long and hard, because we've seen just the videos I made today, the lengths the narcissist will go to get control over you. And that includes where it hurts the most, your children. So the last thing you want to have happen is you show up to this wedding with your kids, have your father, your grandfather, the family all make some kind of wild fucking accusation that you're on drugs, you're being this, you're doing that, they all vouch for it. Next thing you know, the state comes in, takes your kids, you live in another state already, and now you're down the hall. You have to really analyze, is your sister, and is this wedding worth risking your family, risking losing your daughters? Because that is exactly the risk you are going to put yourself in by going to this wedding. I would not go. If I were you, I would not go if your father's there and your grandfather's there. Fuck it, I wouldn't go. Why would you want to be around people who would invite somebody who would molest a child to their wedding after you told them how he would beat you in your teens? Like, these are not people you need in your life. You don't owe them anything. You don't owe your sister anything. You took care of your sister when nobody would, where she was malnourished and kept her alive as a child yourself. You owe your sister nothing. The question I have for you is this, and maybe it would seem ridiculous and paranoid to someone who doesn't understand any of this, but I think you'll take me seriously here. My kids are both still young, 6 and 8. They both have been curious about my family and my childhood lately. I am chronically honest with my children. We have open and honest conversations about sex, drugs, the universe, even politics and religion. But my childhood is hard for me to talk about with them. I feel like I shouldn't badmouth my family to them. But then they also know I have no contact with my father, and I don't want them thinking it's just because he made me mad one time or something. No, you need to be brutally honest with your children and explain to them, look, my family isn't good people, and you don't really need to know them because they're dangerous, and you could keep it simple at first, and as they get older and being able to comprehend what's going on, I would let them know everything. I would let them know everything. Because believe me, the narcissist knows when you're most vulnerable. They know when to go after your children. They'll try to make contact with the grandchild, and they might get your kids at a moment where you told them no on something, they're pissed off on something, and then they get the ball rolling, start with their narcissist enabling bullshit. You want to keep your children as far away from these people as possible, and you want to be honest with them as possible about them. You have nothing to feel guilty about. They know he's going to be at my sister's wedding. I'm scared to death because I know how easy it is for him to make people fall in love with him. He only needs a minute, and he's patient. They're old enough to remember meeting him now, and if they want a relationship with them when they're older, there's nothing I can do. He will destroy them like he did me. He will make them hate me. Should I warn them about him, try to explain? Yeah, warn them, but don't go. Don't give him the opportunity. He's a bad guy. What are you going to do if your father then bends one of your daughters, one of your children over with a paddle on it? Come on, you know what the guy's capable of. No contact. He's dangerous and he hurts children. And you should let your father, your kids know that. He seems like a nice guy, but every adult who hurts children seems nice at first. That's how they do it. There's also his current wife, his fourth. Jesus, I need a cigarette. Yet another beautiful person he's destroying. The same. I bet is she more younger too? Because if she's younger too, I mean, come on, how many more dots do you need to connect? My grandfather told me that she seems broken lately, and I know why. Gee, Grandpa, you don't know why, dipshit? God, your grandfather is an asshole. And enabling douchebag, and this is why I've said the enablers are just as bad as the narcissists themselves. If I could get her alone at the wedding, I was thinking maybe I could slip her some information and resources about narcissism. Listen, you are setting up battlegrounds for disaster at this wedding. You can't win. You can't win at this wedding. You're going to lose. There's too many people against you. It's you, maybe your husband and your 2 kids. You're going to lose. Who knows what information, what they have in store for you, what they're setting you up for, or what they got planned for you, your husband, and your kids. There is no reason to go to this wedding. None whatsoever. Tell her to find out what she's dealing with and what to expect if she tries to leave. And let her know she's not alone. Do you think that's a good idea? I think it's a good idea for you to try to contact her without going to the wedding. That's what I would do. This wedding is a bad idea. It's a bad idea. She cut me out of her life after I posted something about my father on Facebook a few years ago. I can understand that. Being friends with me would be dangerous for her. I know I'm not responsible for her, and she's a grown woman. And I tried to warn her before she got sucked too deep into this hole. But I feel like I know this thing. And if I don't do everything I can to try to help her, I'm just as wrong as he is. There's only so much you can do. The narcissists and the enablers will not connect the dots. You can put it in their lap. You can lay it all out for them. I got what? Almost 300 videos here laying this out for narcissists and enablers. They don't connect the dots. They never do. I'm so sorry for the long story. I need to apologize, dear. And I'm sorry if this seems garbled or it doesn't make a lot of sense. This was really hard for me to write, and I left a lot out. Hopefully you were able to get the gist. I just want to thank you again for what you do. Understanding more about the reasons I've been through all this is such a big help to me. And I can tell from your other videos, you're a big help to many others as well. Thank you. You're doing great work. Okay, so she sent me a duplicate, so I just wanted to make sure I didn't leave anything out. So, thank you for your story, because this is an important one, because you are really, really at a pivotal moment here. You're several states away. You're in safety from the narcissistic abuse. Okay? You are about to inject yourself unnecessarily into a situation you just don't need to be in. You just don't need to be in. Okay? Your priority has to be your children first, you and your husband. All else after that is incidental. So the question is, does going to that wedding put your children, you or your husband, at risk in any way, shape, or form? And the answer is obviously yes. So obviously you can't go. You can't do it. Don't believe because you're being asked to be in a wedding party, it's because they really want you to be there, man. This is an opportunity for them at a wedding with alcohol. And God knows the disasters that happen. And I don't know how long you were staying. I don't think they would do something necessarily to your kids at the wedding, but shortly after. Shortly after. You don't know what trap they got set for you there. I would have nothing, and I mean nothing to do it. Especially since this isn't even your sister's father. This isn't even, oh, wait a minute, yes it is, I'm sorry. This is your stepfather. Yes, this is your sister's father. So whatever, you don't need to be there. He isn't your natural father, is he? Is he? I am confusing the shit out of myself right now. The bottom line is this. You don't need to be there. You don't need to be there. You're right. No, I'm right. Your father is not your sister's father, so why is your father going to the wedding? He doesn't need to be there, so why is he showing up there? Because he's friends with your grandfather? That is bullshit. Your sister should turn around to your grandfather and be like, well, you know what? She says he was beating her over a couch with a paddle. She was on her all, but nobody defends you either. You are setting yourself up for disaster here. So, sorry for the little confusion at the end there. That's my fault, not yours, not anything the way you wrote it. But thank you for your support. Thank you for your contribution. Anybody else, please leave your comments in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. And again, if you want your story on the channel, the PayPal link is in the description box below. You guys know what to do with it. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon.